I've never been super precious about my photos, as far as cropping and stretching them, especially if they're one of my, small town photo kind of landscape things. There are, of course, photos I shoot, like my Polaroids or a lot of my double exposures, that part of them is the composition and the crop and all that. But there's a lot of images that I have that I'm not afraid to mess with. If someone likes one of my photos enough to want it on their wall, I do whatever I can to make it work. For this one, my friend Greg wanted a triptych of one of his favorite spots in town for the conference room of his new law office. Due to the size of his conference room, we were limited to 30 inches high, but we also wanted it to still be longer. So that required me to warp the image, because if I shortened it, it would shrink the length of the piece as well. So if somebody's sitting in a chair, their head's gonna hit the back of the thing if it's like the artwork, if it's too low. So originally, my guess was that it would be 36 inches tall, but that's a little low. It kind of goes too low that way. So we kind of capped ourselves at 30 inches, which kind of makes an interesting problem when you want this particular image at the aspect ratio it's at. If you make the height 30 inches, then the whole piece kind of shrinks in. And so to fix that, we've had to do some warping. So here's kind of like what my calculations ended up being. He wants a triptych. So the way we determined to do it is to cut out the middle where the bridge is. And that's a 36-inch wide piece and 30-inch height, okay? And then we're gonna cut the edges. And so to make a triptych, we're not going to do it evenly. We're going to do these like skinny panels, because the image doesn't work really well for cutting it evenly across, because you have this zigzag shape that really doesn't look good, honestly, if you cut into it. So the zigzag shape, probably not at all what it looks like, but it's going to be in the middle. And then these will be the two sides, so it's going to be 12 inches and then 30. And these are each going to be the same. So yeah, I think that's how we're going to do it. Okay, I'm super dumb. Forgot to bring a tripod with me, but we'll make do. Colors turned out pretty good. They're nice and sharp. I didn't even have to really do any sharpening to it that I remember. Maybe I did a little bit originally with the file. I shot this photo probably 3 years ago, but yeah, looks pretty good on canvas. So now we gotta stretch them. All right, so got my measurements. So now we just need to cut some stretcher bars. And what I'm doing here is basically joining each stick of stretcher bar to create the frame. And basically what this machine is called a V-nailer, and it shoots a staple up under the joint. That way, you don't see it from the front of the frame. And so it basically brings down this arm to hold the frame in place and then shoots a staple up into it. And I shoot multiple just to make sure it has integrity. Okay, so got our stretcher bars here, but they're kind of big and I don't want them to warp, so I'm gonna have to build braces in the middle and on the corners so that over time the bars don't warp. We've all seen canvases in like doctor's offices and stuff that weren't properly stretched, and you'll see them kind of warp or lift off the wall over time. So we're gonna try to avoid that today. 10 and a half. 28. Got my middle braces cut here, so as you can see, they fit just right in the center of the canvas. And that's how it'll end up looking. This one obviously has a longer one, and it will go in the center of the canvas to make sure it doesn't warp. Got my corner braces, so yeah, now we attach everything. So there we go. We've got our stretcher bars right here. And yeah, now we make a workspace so that we can stretch. All right, there we go. I think it'll look pretty good once it's hung on the wall. Yeah. All right, so all we have to do now is deliver it to the office and hang it. So obviously when I hang a piece, I start off by placing them and unwrapping them. And then I look to try to find the center of the wall. I try to have everything lined up so that when I go to find the height, I know at least on the left to right plane where everything goes. The height for this piece is determined by the chairs, and just trying to make sure I get it high enough so that if somebody's sitting in the chair, their head doesn't immediately hit the art piece. I mean, some people are tall, so it is what it is, but I just did the best I could, kind of splitting the difference between not putting it too high and putting it high enough. Now, for these, I used what's called a French cleat, which is a super forgiving hanging system. Basically, what it does is once I find my height and find where on the wall it needs to be, as long as I keep it level, it will stay level. So when I hang the piece, it's not going to slowly drift crooked over time. And that's really helpful. And what's really forgiving about these is that if I'm slightly off on my left or right measurement, I can scoot the piece over along the bar. The most important thing about a piece like this is just making sure that my height is spot on. So otherwise the three pieces aren't going to line up. pretty good. All right. Okay, so as far as art installs go, that was probably the easiest that it gets. Just because it's canvas, it's the French cleats, which are very easy to hang and make sure they're level, and then they won't fall out of level over time. And the canvases are light, so I'm not having to do any crazy reinforcements or anything like that. It's just nice, light, durable prints that will hang straight. You know, you go into a dentist's office or doctor's office and you see prints that have been there since probably like the 80s or whatever. Well, this is just the next generation of those. So, you know, some of my prints that are hanging in hospitals and banks and law offices like this one, I mean, they could be there for the next 20, 30 years. And then eventually some other young buck will show up and be like, ugh, all your art's too old-fashioned, we need to change it up. And yeah, I don't know, that's kind of cool. It's cool to know that eventually my artwork will hang up long enough to be incredibly out of style. So, thanks for watching. You can follow me on Instagram at Will Malone. You can follow my Polaroid Instagram account at EverydayInstant. So, I'll see you soon.